What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. Hope you're happy, safe, healthy. I want to wish you a very happy hump day. It is Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025. It's a very magical time of year. Obviously, it's the Christmas season, holiday season. Hopefully, the decorations are hitting you just right, all the treats. I can't wait for even more cookies and cakes and who knows what else is going to be going on. I'm going for a run after I put this together because I'm eating too many of them. And it's magical because the Dallas Cowboys are playing well. When the Dallas Cowboys are in the thick of things, it makes this time of year feel even more special. It just makes everything fun and interesting and different. And I'm really grateful to be here talking about the Dallas Cowboys with you. And here is the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel, where if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing. Have daily videos, discussions, interviews, all sorts of fun things available. And if you want to hang out with me on social, you can do so. I'm available anywhere you are on the internet talking about the Dallas Cowboys and whatever else I find interesting. Obviously, you can follow me on any platform. The links are down in the description below. And again, please subscribe here. I will have a Dallas Cowboys postgame show up and available for you as soon as Thursday night's game against the Detroit Lions is over. We'll be live, like I said, 5 minutes after the game ends. You can also watch that in the Bleacher Report app. And this is it's a magical time of year. We already talked about that, but this doesn't happen all the time, but it is pretty common for the Cowboys to play 7 days after Thanksgiving, like they're doing here in 2025. And that makes time, I don't want to say stand still, but it makes everything feel kind of weird, right? Because you've got back-to-back games on a Thursday. So Jason Garrett was the first because the Cowboys would do this so often, certainly when he was the head coach and have continued to do so. But he would talk about how the Friday after Thanksgiving was Monday and Saturday after was Tuesday, right? Like you kind of look at it like a Sunday to Sunday type of thing. And then the Cowboys will have the mini bye after this game to get ready to host the Minnesota Vikings next week on Sunday Night Football. So because of that, it feels like it's only Wednesday, but it feels like the Cowboys just played, but it also feels like they haven't played in forever because it was a Thursday last week, but it was Thanksgiving where time is also standing still. And now they're going to play on Thursday again. And so it's just, it's fun and it's weird and it's different. And it's just something that they do again, more often than not. And all of that kind of leads me to, I feel differently. I feel, you know, excited about the Cowboys. I am so fortunate to get to do this for a living, and I'm very grateful for all of you, as we've been talking about a lot throughout this holiday season. But what I love about my job is I get to be a fan, right? Like my job is to be a fan on some level. And it has not been fun to be a Cowboys fan for a long time. And I'm not here to relitigate all that, right? But what I'm here to talk about relative to that is this is the most excited I have been for a Cowboys game in a long time. I would honestly say maybe in 2 full years. The last time the Cowboys played 7 days after Thanksgiving was 2 years ago. They hosted the Seattle Seahawks 7 days after Thanksgiving. And if you recall, that was the night the Cowboys defense just got worked by the Seahawks offense at the time with Geno Smith. And it was just a matter of like, how is this happening? This defense is falling apart. And that was when I was ready to move on from Dan Quinn, just to kind of again contextualize everything. But Dak Prescott was phenomenal. Dak Prescott was amazing. And that night the Cowboys won, and it felt like Dak was going to win MVP. It really felt like the stars were finally fully aligning in that sense. And the Eagles were collapsing, right? Like things felt very similar then to how they feel now. And then the December from hell awaited the Cowboys before the January from hell, right? They lost to Buffalo and Miami, and they got run all over in those games. And then they beat the Lions, incidentally enough. And Jimmy Johnson was put into the Ring of Honor, and CD broke all the records. And, Dak finished second in MVP voting. And then the playoff loss happened. But ever since then, ever since that playoff loss, we've talked about this many different times. It has just been like one gut punch after another, after another, after another. I mean, just like slowly and deliberately taking away our joy as fans, our ability to feel joy as fans. I think last year as a whole was that from start to finish. And I think we entered this season wanting to be optimistic because that's what you want to do, right? That's on some level what you kind of need to do as a sports fan, is you have to find something to feel optimistic about. And I think that we had started to kind of climb the mountain again. We had started to say, okay, we're willing to believe, we've come around on Brian Schottenheimer, right? Like, covering the entire offseason. You've made all these trades, and granted, some of them, didn't really necessarily work out. Talking about the Kenneth Murray and Kyrie Lim ones, all due respect. The George Pickens one would obviously come and has worked out wonderfully and has worked out to the degree that who cares what you did with the others. Shout out Joe Milton, though. And so we had started to kind of believe, right? They had, they signed Solomon Thomas, right? They were doing all these different things. And then the Micah stuff happened. And the Micah stuff just kind of, burned up all the goodwill that the franchise had, I don't even say built up, but had just kind of somewhat established. But we, even then, only let them establish it on the loosest of foundations, given everything that happened in 2024. And so again, they had just put the when they build a house and they just put the frame up, right? Like they had just started to kind of put the frame up, and then they tore it all down with the Micah stuff. And then obviously the first half of the season was so wonky and terrible and awful. And these last few weeks, from a football perspective, have been so enthralling and so captivating and so much fun. And a lot of that is obviously who they've beaten, right? They've beaten the last two Super Bowl teams. That's been discussed ad nauseum. They came back from a 21-0 deficit against the Eagles, which was super awesome to see, kind of recapped in the opening episode of the in-season Hard Knocks, in case you're unaware. A few years ago at this point, HBO and NFL Films began developing in-season Hard Knocks, similar to the training camp edition. It covers a team kind of over the second half of a season. They were doing individual teams, and then they last year switched to covering entire divisions. Last year was the AFC North. This year was the NFC East. And the first episode premiered on Wednesday of this week. So if you have HBO, HBO Max, whatever they call it now, I think it is HBO Max. If I look at the app, it's HBO Max, whatever. But you can go watch it, and it'll come out next Wednesday as well. And it covers the whole division, but it did start and feature prominently the Cowboys win over the Eagles, and obviously the Cowboys win over the Chiefs, and the Eagles lost to the Bears. It was just a wonderful episode to kind of experience as a Cowboys fan. And I think that I was watching it. I had a bowl of ice cream and I had my dogs on my feet, and it was just, it had the Christmas lights going, right? Like the vibe of everything that I was feeling as a Cowboys fan during Hard Knocks was so pure and so blissful and so wonderful. And I legitimately, I'm telling you the full truth here, I paused it, and I know it's kind of a meme that like dudes look at their Christmas tree, and just kind of stare at it and ponder about life. I was kind of doing that, right? I was kind of looking around my house and with my dogs on my feet again, and my bowl of ice cream, and just kind of feeling grateful for all of God's blessings in my life. But what made me pause it was just kind of watching that Hard Knocks episode and all this good that's happening to the Cowboys and the Eagles falling apart. And it kind of made me feel those sports butterflies. And I haven't felt those relative to the Cowboys in a very, very, very long time. And I know all this stuff. I'm so afraid to trust this team. I'm so done with trusting this team on many different levels. 30 years, all that stuff. But damn it, it feels so good to have sports butterflies again. And the Cowboys might lose on Thursday night against the Lions, and that might doom their playoff chances. The Eagles might not lose a single game and might win the NFC East. Who knows? But what I know is that I have sports butterflies again relative to the Dallas Cowboys. And after so long of that not being something that could happen, for it to be the case once more, man, that feels good. And it will probably end in heartbreak, but I'm kind of okay with that. I've kind of reckoned with that reality, because that's reality as a sports fan, not as a Dallas Cowboys fan, but as a sports fan. And at the very least, we are back to that point, and that is a very special thing. I know that it's a weird thing to be like, how awesome that they could lose, right? Like, that's not my point here. That's not my perspective. That's hopefully not what I want your takeaway to be, because I think the Cowboys are going to win this game. I think the Cowboys, call it momentum, call it whatever you want. I think the Cowboys right now are just in this groove. They're in this nirvana. Sometimes when you play a video game or something and you've kind of lost focus, but you can't actually focus your vision, because if you do, you'll lose the likeness, you'll lose what you're in. You just have to kind of live in the blur. You have to live in the lack of focus, the lack of clarity. I kind of think that's where the Cowboys are at. And you could certainly argue about what the specific moment was that was catalytic for this little run. Maybe it was falling down 21-0 against the Eagles. Maybe it was, coming out of the bye. Maybe it was the addition of Quinnen Williams. All these things are acceptable answers, certainly. But right now, they are just in this zone, and I trust them. I mean, they are probably, in my estimation, not probably, I'm declaring, I believe, I'm predicting the Cowboys are going to go to Detroit on Thursday night. They're going to get another win, and they're going to sit back and hope they get the help that they need across the rest of Week 14. And that may not happen, and that's okay, because there's still several weeks left in the regular season. But I think the Cowboys are going to win. I trust them to win this game. I trust Dak Prescott. I trust George Pickens. I trust CeeDee Lamb. I trust Quinnen Williams. I trust Brian Schottenheimer. And it feels so good to be able to feel that way, not in a coping sort of way, but in an objective sort of way. They've earned that right at this point in the season. And I'm just really excited. I talk a lot about when I was growing up, when I was in high school. I remember, um, you know, I'm 36 years old now. I turned 36 this year, and so that's half my life ago, right? And the the NFL began Thursday Night Football in 2006, and I remember those nights and just kind of, getting some dinner or whatever, and just watching those games and watching those games this time of year. I love it. Again, the magical nature of the season, everything about Christmas and whatnot. But I love when there are poinsettias on an NFL set, right? On an NFL pregame set. It just, the football obviously matters more, is more significant. That goes without saying because you're at the Christmas time and the way that the football calendar, the football schedule works. But there's just something different to primetime island games this time of year. They feel bigger. They are bigger. And so I feel like we've come into these as Cowboys fans in recent memory with just such existential dread, just such, okay, another one, whatever, however this goes, fine, you're going to play the Bengals on Monday Night Football, and there's going to be a Simpsons alternate cast, whatever. But this one we are finally ready to live and die with again. This one we are finally ready to kind of put our hearts on our sleeves for once more. And that is a really inspiring sort of feeling. And look, they could lose. I get that. And that's, someone's going to lose this game, but that we are now in a position, in a place where I would assume you have been looking forward to this Thursday night game since Thanksgiving. I would assume that you maybe made plans for who you're going to watch with, or how you're going to watch it, or you're going to make sure you're out of work and you're home in time. You've picked up the wings, or you've ordered the pizza, or you've got the leftovers, or you have chili going because it's cold outside, whatever. But my point is, this game has become bigger than you thought and even hoped it possibly could be. And I love that. I love that about football. I love that about the Cowboys. I love that those things are kind of intersecting, and we're back in the middle of this perfect Venn diagram. And I think it's going to end with a win on Thursday night. We're going to have another amazing weekend as Dallas Cowboys fans. That may not happen. But I trust Dak Prescott that much. I trust Brian Schottenheimer that much. I trust George Pickens that much. I'm recording this on Wednesday. On Tuesday night, I jumped across enemy lines to Pride of Detroit, SB Nation's home for Detroit Lions content, obviously. And I did a podcast with the me of Pride of Detroit. His name is Jeremy Reisman. He's super awesome. He's been on here before. And his co-host, Ryan Matthews, not the former NFL running back. And just kind of talking to them about the game, they are so down as Lions fans. And I don't say this like, oh man, Cowboys are going to jump all over them or anything like that. Look, I've been burned that way many times. We all have. But I that's what kind of gives me confidence, is this Lions team is beaten up. This Lions team is really down, along the interior of their offensive line. Amon-Ra St. Brown's probably not going to play. Maybe you're watching this at a time that it's been confirmed he's not going to play. Who knows? The Lions are just kind of fading. And I don't think they're losers. I don't think they're frauds. I just think that it's so hard to be so consistent in the NFL. And the Lions have done it longer than most teams. And sometimes you need a breath, right? And I think that's really where I've kind of landed on the Cowboys and how I view them at this point. I think that the Cowboys are so comfortable in their situation. And I don't mean the situation as far as trying to get into the playoffs or anything like that. I think the Cowboys are just comfortable in chaos. It was reported on Wednesday that their Thanksgiving Day win was the most watched regular season game in NFL history. Over 57 million people watched it. I think, we all know that a lot of people watch this team, that they get all sorts of headlines, positive and negative. I think that they have all, as a nucleus, as a core, as a foundational group of the players who most significantly drive the success and failures of this team, and that would include the head coach and the coaching staff. I think they are so well accustomed to just the fog, the craze, the America's team of it all. And I think that is something that is unique to them. And other teams have elements that are unique to them. But I think that they have become so comfortable in it, so that if they fall down 21-0 against a bitter rival in the Eagles, they don't blink in the way that somebody else might in a situation like that. They have to play the Kansas City Chiefs on Thanksgiving Day with what's going to be 57 million people watching. That doesn't phase them because they're so used to living in the eye of the storm. And so when they reach a storm where they're 3-5-1, they're pretty comfortable in the storm, right? They're well accustomed to life in the middle, in the eye of the storm. And I think that that's what we're seeing, and that's what I am the most impressed with, is that this Cowboys team is weathering the storm. But again, to them, it's not a storm. To them, it's a sunny day outside because that's their everyday. When other NFL teams like the Lions in this moment where there's a bit of a storm encircling them, it feels like a storm because it is a storm, because to them, they have days where there is no storm. But the Dallas Cowboys are perpetually and perennially in a storm. So when there's a storm encircling everyone, it kind of becomes their superpower. It's a weird sort of thing, but that's one of the benefits of being America's team, I suppose. I think the Cowboys are going to win this game. I'm really excited. I can't wait to watch it. I can't wait to come here for our post-game show afterwards with all of you. I don't know what I'm going to eat yet, but I got to really think about this now. I've gotten myself more excited than I already was, which is very, very, very excited. But looking forward to hearing your feedback on this video and that video and everything else. So yeah, let's go ahead and get out of here. If you want to hang out with me on social media, you can do so. I am RJ Ochoa most places. The links to all of my social profiles are down in the description below. Big shout out to the Facebook audience. This year, at the beginning of the season, I created a Facebook page for myself. I had never done that. Obviously, we have our Blog on the Boys page, but I created an RJ Ochoa page, and that has been popping off as of late. So if you haven't liked that, please consider doing so. I've been doing a lot more on Instagram. I love the Instagram community. I'm on the march to 10,000 followers there. Looking forward to maybe hitting that before the season ends. That's a little bit ambitious, but you never know. But yeah, and obviously also please make sure to subscribe right here to the Blog on the Boys YouTube channel. Got daily videos, daily discussions. And look, the George Pickens thing did not happen, and I was so mad that I said that it was supposed to happen because sometimes those things fall through, and it did fall through, and the PR people involved have pledged to try and make it happen again at some point in the future, but you never know. I'm not going to say the name because I don't want to have that situation happen. I felt very bad and felt very guilty and felt very silly that it fell through. But currently, I am scheduled to interview somebody on the Cowboys on Friday morning. We'll see if that happens. Obviously, God willing, it does. I'll get the interview up here. But that means a very busy weekend here on the channel. You will obviously have the post-game show on Thursday. We have our Madden simulation up, by the way, now. If you want to go watch that, just go throughout the channel and find it. But so we'll have the post-game show Thursday night, and then Friday we will. I was going to say supposedly, but we're scheduled to have, the best way to put it, the actual way to put it is the best way to put it. We are scheduled to have a prominent member. It's not George Pickens, but a prominent member of the Dallas Cowboys roster. So that interview will drop, God willing, and then I'll have a video on Friday reacting to everything that we saw on Thursday night as well. So looking forward to all that. Thanks so much, everybody, for hanging out. Bear and Honey were wonderful dogs throughout this video, in case you're curious. And yeah, we'll see you all next time. Go Cowboys.